What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and in today's episode of the Super Smash Brothers and Platform Fighter tutorial series, we are going to be going over a splash screen in our game. So we have the ability to enter our game, exit our game, and play our game now. But there is another piece that's missing with the game flow, and that is the splash screen. If you're not familiar with splash screens, basically they are the little menus or videos that play when you're starting up a game. So if you ever launched a game and you see that it says like Unreal Engine or Fmod, it might even have an intro about the game itself, such as a trailer or something for the development team. These are called splash screens, and they're typically not interactable, but you may be able to skip them if your game is loaded and ready to go. So although seemingly simple in concept, they are very important. They can fulfill legal requirements, give credit where credit is due, and tell the players how the game was created in a general sense, like what tools were used, what engine it runs in, that sort of thing. So today we're going to be adding a splash screen to our game. Instead of just going to the main menu screen, we would load up the splash screen. And as we have more things to load in our game, we likely aren't going to be able to load the main menu as quick as this. So since this is an editor build, we can load really quickly and be here. But when this is on a marketplace like Steam or on a console, there's going to be some steps that need to be taken while everything is loading up, and splash screens will fill the void between loading up and actually playing the game. Now, before we hop into this episode on splash screens, if you want to get caught up to everything else you're seeing on the screen here, like this Platform Fighter tutorial series with a Super Smash Brothers inspiration, character and stage selection screens, different game modes, and a lot more, then I recommend you check out the entire Platform Fighter and Super Smash Brothers tutorial series that we have on this channel. I'll link you to the entire playlist right here so you can see all the content that we put into this game so far. Alternatively, if you don't care about that, if you just care about splash screens, that's perfectly fine. I do recommend that you have a main menu. That way your splash screen can lead you somewhere once it is complete. So I'll link you to the episode where we made the main menu for the Super Smash Bros. Tutorial series if you want to see how that was created. Now with all that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. So this is a code and blueprint tutorial series. Splash screens are handled in the project settings and using a lot of Unreal behavior, so we're not really going to be touching code or blueprints. We're going to be going through settings and assigning values, and then testing and making sure it looks like what we would expect. So starting out, we can go to Edit and Project Settings. Now this will work in Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5. I do have an episode on splash screens in my fighting game tutorial series in Unreal Engine 4, but you'll notice they're pretty much identical. So you don't have to worry about the version, just as long as you're in UE4 or UE5. Now, funnily enough, I know these as splash screens from pretty much anything I've ever worked on, but Unreal calls these movies. So the splash screen for Unreal has a very specific name because you have the editor splash menus. Even though this isn't what this episode is on, this is something cool you can do. So when you're loading up the editor, typically you see these splash screens. And if you're launching it as a game version of the editor, like if you're trying to launch a standalone instance, you usually see this game splash here. You can customize these and change these with custom images. That way those things display instead of the default Unreal screens if you want to. But for today's episode, we're going to be looking at movies. And these are the things that we're going to display at the start of loading up a session. These are what I know as splash screens. So first things first, we have this movies section under movie player settings, and it has the startup movies field. And it is the movies to play on startup. Note that these must be in your game's game/content/movies directory. So we want to listen to this, and we want to add some movies, but we need some videos that we can actually display. So we need to add them to our project. So first of all, we are in our content directory here. So game is basically the root folder before this, and then content. So if you go to all, that's where this is. So if we go into our content browser and right click on it, go to show and explore. And if you're on Linux, you can do show in files instead. And this will show you the content directory. Now you'll notice we don't have a movies folder in here, so we need to make one. That way we can abide by Unreal's logic for displaying those movies at the start. So right click in here or in your file explorer, go to new folder and make one called movies. Make sure it's spelled this way, case is the same. And now we have our movies folder. Now you could try and add your content through here if you want. I typically just add it in from my file explorer. So you can use whatever movies you want. I'm going to open up my File Explorer, and I have some of my old intros in here. I have my store merch, my Twitch trailer, my Patreon overview in here. It doesn't matter what file you choose. You pick the file you want. For now, you can use a default or temporary file. All that will be required when you want to use the new file is to update the startup movie. So it's very, very simple. But let's say I want to have my Patreon overview in my startup screen. I can do that. So I'm going to copy this file and go to my projects content folder where we were before. For me, I have an easy way to do this right here. I can go to my Unreal projects, SSB template 5.0, content. Now I can go into my movies folder and paste this in. So Patreon overview 2023.mp4. Now once I have this file in the folder, I can go to this button here that says import. You can also go to add and import to game/movies, and Unreal Engine 4 it is very similar. Just import any way you can. Go to the same folder you were just in, so content, movies, Patreon overview. And when you import it, it should just work. It should show up here. It's a file media source, and you can click on it and open it. And there are ways to view it in here, but we don't have to do all that right now because our splash screen will be a test for us. So as long as we see the file path is directing to the proper spot that we expect this video to be at, this should be good enough. Now we can save this file media source and exit out. At this point we have a movie, so I can go back to edit project settings, go to movies, which if you want to find this regularly, there is a movie section right here under project. You can go there, and for startup movies we can come over here and press add now to add one, and you can add multiple. And we have this first index, and we want to choose a file from this computer. So we're going to click on that and go to movies and Patreon overview. And here it is. Once you have your file selected here, you can add another one by pressing add here, or you can insert, delete, or duplicate. I'm just going to use this one for today's episode. We had two other options, so are movies skippable? So as the tooltip says, if enabled, startup movies can be skipped by the user when a mouse button is pressed. So if you press the mouse button, you're going to skip the movie. Do we want to allow that? It's up to you if you want to allow that or not. I will enable it for now, just for testing at least. If we want to change it later, we can. Then we have wait for movies to complete. So again, just reading from the tooltip, but if enabled, the game waits for startup movies to complete even if loading has finished. So remember what I said earlier, these startup movies or these splash screens allow the game to load everything, get everything ready while the user is seeing these screens, so they're not just looking at a black screen while it's running. This checkbox means that even if everything is loaded, it's not going to put you in the game right away. The users will have to watch every single startup movie that exists before continuing. Now, if you skip them, that also counts. So if it's loaded but movies are skippable, you can still skip them even if wait for movies to complete is checked. But I'm going to check yes, we should wait for movies to complete. Now at this point we can close out of this, and if we launch our editor, we're not going to see anything. This is just the regular game. You can't see your splash screens or your startup movies when playing from the editor like that. However, you can simply change your play type to standalone game. If you select that, it will then launch it like it's its own game, as if we were launching it on our computer, and then we can see the splash screens and the startup movies. Note this will also work if you are running a packaged game, or if you are really running the game elsewhere. This is just so you can test within the editor. That's why we use standalone game here. Now it is opening down here, and you can see it is playing my splash screen. When the video finishes, or the movie finishes, I now go into my main menu, and everything works as expected. I can come in here and play my game like I usually would. Now if I close out of this and relaunch, I can also click in the center of the screen to skip it if it is loaded. So if it's not loaded, I can't skip it. But see, I was mashing the button. Once everything was loaded and ready to go, when I clicked the mouse button, it skipped it and let me go to the main menu. So that is really helpful to have if you want to offer that to the user. So anyway guys, that's how you can add splash screens and startup movies to your game. I hope this video helped you. If it did, please subscribe and consider joining the Patreon, YouTube membership, or Discord subscriptions to support the channel further. I'll show the benefits on the screen while doing this outro. If you ran into any problems while creating a splash screen or with any of my other content, feel free to join the Discord community. There is a link in the description, and I would be happy to help you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.